Okay, let's continue for the lecture 2. Macronutrient function. Here you can see that the oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen, that almost all the chemical molecules uh, occupied for 96% of the plant biomass. And the nitrogen is very important for uh the most essential element required after carbon, and it plays a central role in plant metabolism as a constituent of protein and amino acids, chlorophylls, coenzymes, phytohormones, and the secondary metabolites. And when it's taken as ammonium or the nitrate, is assimilated into amino acid either in the roots or shoots and within the plant, is translocated as nitrate or amino acids. And phosphorus. The phosphorus is a structural element in the nucleic acid and as a component of the nosing phosphorus is plays an important role in the energy transfer and is also essential for the transfer of carbohydrate in the leaf cell. And the main role of the potassium is the osmoregulation, which is important for the cell extension and the stomata movement, and it affects rolling and sucrose and the rate of mass flow driven solute movement within the plant. And calcium is important for the cell walls and membrane stabilization stabilization and osmoregulation and as second messenger, thereby allowing plants to regulate developmental process in response to environmental stimuli. And furthermore, the ma- magnesium. Magnesium is a component. Magnesium is a component of chlorophyll and is required for the photosynthesis and the protein synthesis. And the sulfur. The sulfur is taken up as the sulfate and assimilated into the sulfur containing the amino acid that are used to synthesize the S containing enzymes and the coenzymes as well as secondary compound. And furthermore, the micronutrients function. The first one, the chlorine, and is important for the osmosis. It can help for the osmosis and the ironate balance in the plants. And the iron is the micronutrients essential for the crop growth. And the importance of it is role in the chlorophylls in production. For the reason iron is the elements essential for the photosynthesis and enzyme composition. Irons also influence the transfer of energy, nitrogen reduction, and fixation, as well as lignin formation. The lignin and Magnesium. Magnesium is important for the enzyme, serve as the enzyme activator, and also help to increase the membrane integrity and oxygen released in the photosynthesis. And next one, the boron. The boron is a crop element important for the sugar transportation, formation of the cell walls, and productions of amino acids, crop production, flowering, fruiting, and also increase the crop qualities. And the zinc is another activator, uh, and also an important component for many enzymes. Is an important factor in the early growth stages, root, seeds, and fruit development, photosynthesis, balance of plant hormones, and the oxidant activities. And the copper. And the copper, it can help to involve in some reductions and reduction reactions in. And molybdenum, the molybdenum is important and have important roles for the nitrogen fixations and nitrate reduction. It can serve as a catalyst during this process. And the last one, the nickel. The nickel is important for the enzyme functioning in the nitrogen metabolism. And he will talk about the nutrients mobility within the plants. And we can divide and separate these elements into two groups: mobile nutrients and immobile nutrients. And the nutrients and the mobile nutrients, which means that those nutrients which can be translocated from one part to other through the folium. They exist in the ion form in the folium that being absorbed from the soil solutions and then being transported from the roots to other plants. And however, another immobile nutrient is different with the mobile nutrients. They cannot, difficult for them to be transported through the folium, and so the diffusion systems for them, for these mobile nutrients or immobile nutrients are also different. And all nutrients move relatively easily from the roots to the growing portion of the plants. And also interestingly, some nutrients can also move from older tissue to newer tissue. If older tissue to the newer tissue, if there is deficiency of that nutrients. So knowing which nutrients are mobile within the plant is very useful in diagnosing the plant nutrient deficiency, because if only the lower leaves are affected, then a mobile nutrient is most likely the cause. And another situation, if only the upper leaves shows the deficiency, then the plant is likely deficient in an immobile or less able to move nutrients, because that nutrients cannot move from older to newer tissue. And the table lists the 6 nutrients considered mobile and the 8 nutrients, these 8 nutrients considered it immobile. For sulfur is generally considered immobile, that 7 in deficiencies can affect entire plants. And here shows the flows that you can know the deficiency systems, from the deficiency systems that you can know which whether the which nutrient deficiencies cause these substance on the plant. For example, if the new deficiency symptom showed in the older or lower leaves firstly, and if yes, you can see that it affects the effects mostly generalize the plant dark or light greens, which means that it will affect the chlorophyll productions, and also the color. You can know that if the color show is the developing the purple, red, or red color is caused by the phosphorus deficiency. If no, it will be caused by the nitrogens, and depends on the color change, or whether it have the necrosis and necrosis symptom, that you can know which nutrient deficiency will cause this substance on the plant. And here we'll talk about the first element, the first essential element, the nitrogen. And nitrogen is because here for these essential nutrient, we only focus that 14 essential nutrients that we can absorb from the soil. So we will not focus on the other three, the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, because all these three can obtain for the air and the water, and always have abundance of them can supply for the plants. And here we only talk about the the elements that exist in the soil, that we can through the fertilizations and other method to fix this problem, these nutrients limitation problem. And the first one, the nitrogen, we talk the soil nitrogen cycle and nitrogen fixation is, the nitrogen fixation is a process by which molecular nitrogen in the air is converted into the ammonia or related nitrogenous compounds in the soil. And most weak nitrogen is molecular nitrogen, relatively non-reactive molecule that is metabolically useless to all but a few microorganisms. And also is the fixation for the nitrogen is mediated by the nitrogen fixing bacteria. And for example, the rhizobium is very important. We always said it will have the symbiotic effect with the legume, help to form the nodule with the legume to transport the essential nitrogen for the nitrogen fixation. And azotobacter, also another non-symbiotic bacteria, can help for plant for the nitrogen fixing in the soil. And soil nitrification. What is the nitrification? Nitrification is the biological oxidation of ammonia and nitrite, followed by the oxidation of the nitrite or the nitrate. And the transformation of ammonia to nitrite is usually the limiting step of nitrification. And the nitrification is an important step in the nitrogen cycle in the soil. And nitrification is an aerobic process, which means that it need the oxygen, the help with oxygen, and performed by small groups of autotrophic bacteria, and with the help for them. And here you can see that is decomposition of organic matter into the ammonium and the nitrate. The whole process, it need the help for the modifying bacteria and nitrifying bacteria that help to convert the nitrogen source into the ammonium and nitrate or the nitrate. And here talk about the nitrogen functions in the plants. Nitrogen is very important, is an important component of proteins, enzymes, ammonium acid, nucleic acid, chlorophyll. That the limitation for the nitrogen will affect the color, the green color for the plants. And the CN ratio will the nitrogen will affect for the CN ratios in the plants. CN ratio, which means that the carbon and the nitrogen ratio. And the high carbon and nitrogen ratio, which means that the plants will become more reproductive, and the low which means that the nitrogen concentration is very high, and that more nitrate or nitrite retained in the plants that cannot be effectively used by the plants. The plants can become more vegetative. And transamination, which means that is convert for the nitrite into amino acid, and then convert it as the glutamic acids that being used by convert to other amino acids, and being to used as the protein, in the plants, is essential for fast growth that made the plant have a green color. So for the deficiency and toxicity system for the plant, nitrogen is very significant. You can see that if the plant shows the deficiency for the nitrogen, it will reduce the growth. And because it is the mobile nitrogen, so the deficiency systems show the yellowing or the corrosive in the olive or old shoots first, that shows the deficiency symptoms. And toxicity, which means that too much nitrogen in the soil, in the plants, then will cause the shoot elongations. And you can see the color for the leaf show the dark color, and also have the succulence for the leaves, and is easily to cause the pest problem. And fertilizer was the common nitrogen fertilizer, which has ammonium nitrate, calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate, urea, and most plants prefer half for the ammonium and nitrate, because in the following part for the nitrogen assimilation, I will tell you the conversions between the ammonium and nitrate, and which part is more usable and more useful for the nitrogen assimilation and transportation. So for the fertilizer selections, and we suggest to use half for the ammonium, the cation form, and half for the nitrate, the anion form. So half for the fertilizer. For the nitrogen fertilizer is the best choice for it. And ammonium for the nitrogen application, it will lower the soil pH, because when you apply it for the cation forms ammonium nitrogens, that it need to release one hydrogen ion in the soil solutions, that will decrease soil pH. And another situation, the anion form, the nitrate form of the nitrogen, because the anion form need to combine it with one released available hydrogen ion to in the soil solution that they can help to raise the soil pH. So it's the best choice for the selection is to select half one. And if you choose the organic fertilizer such as the manure, green manure, the livestock manure, the all these process will have a slow acting uh, for the nitrogen released to the soil. And the nitrogen also can be applied foliarly. So however, but these part of foliar fertilizer not the efficiency is not that high, because the leaf or the plants cannot absorb too much of the nitrogen. Also depends on the nitrogen fertilizers type. And the nitrogen deficiency substance, and here you can see that is in the plant. The deficiencies of nitrogen in the plant can occur when the organic matter with high carbon content, such as the sawdust, is added to soil. Soil organisms use any nitrogen to break down carbon sources, making nitrogen unavailable to plants, is known as robbing the soil of nitrogen. And all vegetables apart from the nitrogen fixing legumes are prone to this disorder. The nitrogen deficiencies can be prevented in the short term by using grass mowing as a mulch, or foliar feeding with manure, and in the longer terms by building up levels of organic matter in the soil, showing green manure, showing green manure. Um, Crops such as grazing right to cover soil over the winter, which help to prevent nitrogen leaching, while legumes, green manure such as winter tears will fix additional nitrogen from the atmosphere. 大家等我1分鐘，我好快返嚟。Sorry 嚇。Okay, the next one is the we talk about the phosphorus, and the relationships with the soil is come from the mineral appetite. We say it is mainly come from the phosphorus rocks, and is relatively stable in the soil, and has a low mobility, um, in the soil. Because as we say, it's easily to have a fixation, in the soil. And the plant function, um, The plant function, we said it is a very important component for the nucleic acid, for the DNA, RNA synthesis, and also the cell membrane that have a phospholipid and is a coenzyme, high energy phosphorus bonds in the ADP and ATP, and also we said before the seed germination, the seedlings, and we should apply the phosphorus into the soil because the seeds, um, before the plantation, the phosphorus application is very important. That and the deficiency for the phosphorus on the plants because it's more difficult to diagnose than deficiency of nitrogen or the potassium. The crop usually display no obvious symptoms of phosphorus deficiency other than a general stunting um, stunting of plants during early growth. By the time a visual deficiency is recognized, it may be too late to correct in annual crops because the annual crop just a short period for 1 year, and some crops such as corn tend to show an abnormal uh, discolorations when the phosphorus is deficient. The plant usually that brownish green in color, with leaves and stem becoming purplish. So you can see that the deficiency for the leaves is show the purple or the reddish color, and the degrees of purple is influenced by the genetic makeup of the plants, which some hybrids showing much greater discoloration than others. The purplish color is due to accumulation of sugars that favors the synthesis of uh, anthocyanin. Anthocyanin is a purplish color pigment that uh, made the color formation, which occurs in the leaves of the plant. Phosphorus is highly mobile in plants, which and when deficient, it may be translocated from old plant tissue to young, actively actively growing areas. Consequently, early vegetative response to the phosphorus are often observed. As a plant uh, matures, phosphorus is translocated into fruit-tinted areas of the plant, where high energy requirements are needed for the formation of seeds and fruits. Phosphorus deficiency late in the growing season affect both seed development and normal crop maturity. The percentage of the total amount of each nutrient take up is higher for phosphorus late in the growing season than for either nitrogen or phosphorus. And the the most common and frequently being used phosphorus fertilizer, which are the superphosphorus, and the single one and the triple one. The triple superphosphorus contain higher concentration of the phosphorus and ammonium phosphorus, and at the same time if you use this one you can also supply the nitrogen concentration, increase the nitrogen level in the soil. Bone, bone meal is another organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizer help to fix the nitrogen concentrate, the phosphorus concentration in the soil. So they will exist in these three form, different valence and different phosphorus level in the monovalent and divalent depends on the soil pH. And the next one, the potassium. The potassium is always present in large amount in the mineral soil, especially in the kaolinite fruits of potassium ion is low in the organic soil. Is pump function, the functions of potassium in the plants is a very important activator of many enzymes, and it can help to regulate the water movement across the cell membrane and through the stomata. Because when we lengthen the cell membrane, the transportation of uh, different iron uh, different iron for different iron for the cell membrane transportations, and the potassium easily to pass through. The potassium ion is easily to pass through for the cell membrane. That for the plant growth, and the deficiency. The deficiency symptom and toxicity. The deficiency or symptom of potassium in the plant includes the brown scorching, and here is a very typical symptom. This is the necrosis, the margin necrosis. The margin necrosis, and the cell, the cell spots show the brown color, and the leaf cell already dead, and it will show the brown scorching. The scorching and the curling of the leaf tips, as well as corrosions between the leaf veins. The purple spot may also appear on the leaf underside. And the plant growth, root development, and the seeds and fruit development are usually reduced in the potassium deficient plants. Often, potassium deficiency symptoms first appear on the older leaves because potassium is a mobile nutrient. Um, Meaning that the plant can allocate the potassium to younger leaves when it is potassium deficient. Deficiency plants may be more prone to fault, damage, and disease, and their symptoms can often be confused with the wind scorch or drought. So for the for the for the for the symptoms during the future, you need to dis, is you need to distinguish the symptom, whether it's caused by other cases or the deficiencies for the potassium. And the fertilizer is for the potassium commonly being used, which are the potassium chloride and all the potassium sulfate or the potassium nitrate, which are the very commonly being used, which are the most common being used fertilizer. And here shows the symptoms that shows the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium deficiency, leaf of lettuce, and here you can see that this one is the control. The size is normal, the green color for the leaves, and if show the nitrogen deficiency, show the corrosives, the smaller leaf area, and and it shows in the younger leafers and the light green color. And for the phosphorus deficiency, it shows in the dark green color. And more severe, it will show the purplish color, color on the leaves. And for the potassium deficiency, you can see the marginal, it will show the marginal necrosis, the leaf margin, the leaf margins have shown the depth leaf. Also, the deficiency symptoms shows on the beans leaf, and is similar with the leaf on the lattice leaf. You can see that the control is like this, and a much more lighter green color for the nitrogen deficiency. And and uh, and purplish color, the dark green color for the phosphorus deficiency. And potassium show the necrosis, the depth. Next one, and next the next one, the calcium, and the soil relationship, the soil relationship with the calcium is present in the large quantity in the Earth's surface. Is occupies almost 1% in the topsoil. And it also influences the availability of other ions from soil, for example, the phosphorus, and easily to combine it with the calcium ion because it shows abundance, have a lot of calcium ion in the soil solution. Easy for them to combine with the other anion forms of nutrients ion. The plant function is as we know, is an important component for the cell world, and especially for the middle lamella. Is largely present as a calcium platinate in the middle lamella, and also involved in the cell membrane function. And the calcium peptide, is immobile, in the plant tissue. Here, that we can know that we can see that the deficiency of calcium is shown in the different plant tissue. The calcium deficiency symptoms appear initially as localized tissue necrosis leading to stunted plant growth, necrotic leaf margins on the young leaf or the curling of the leaves, and eventual death of terminal bud and the root tips. Generally, the new growth and the rapid growth tissues of the plants are affected first. The mature leaves are really, if ever, affected because the calcium accumulated to high concentration in older leaves. Calcium deficiency in the plant are associated with reduced height of the plant, fewer nodes, and a less leaf area. And and for example, some plants such as the cabbage, lettuce, these plants have some evidence that the plants are more likely to experience the tip burns if there is experiencing the deficiency of calcium. And the fertilizer for the calcium, and the most commonly being used, which are the lime or gypsums or the bone meal together with the organic phosphorus source, and is important, and organic fertilizer help to fix the phosphorus or calcium limitation problem, deficiency problem. And the light also can help to adjust the soil pH in the help to adjust the soil pH. And the deficiency for the calcium, and will show this symptom on the tomato. We call it the blossom end rot of tomato calcium deficiency. It can occur in the pepper, cucumber, and melon fruits, as well as tomato. The blossom end rot is most common when the growing season starts out wet and then becomes dry when fruit is setting. Fluctuations in the soil moisture is very important for this one. Too wet or too dry will cause it an excess of nitrogen in the soil, root damage due to the cultivation soil pH that's either too high or too low, cold soil, and the soil high in the salt. And the fruits are usually affected when about 1/3 or more grow during the day. The pores on the leaves are opened and the water transpired from them drawing sap into the leaves. Since the fruit do not lose much water by transpiration, they receive little of the calcium containing sap. So at night, the leaves pores close and the root pressure forcing sap into the plant. And the developing fruit get their share of calcium and other nutrients. If the plant is water stressed at night, the system fails and the fruit receive very little calcium. That will cause this blossom and rot of the tomato. And here shows the example. Examination shows the fluctuation of the soil moisture, and that caused the influence of calcium on the root in induction on the rose cutting, so you can see that. And concentration of calcium also will affect the root development on the rose roots. And sulfur, another one, the sulfur. The soil relation is present in the mineral pyrite. The pyrite, we said, like this. The pyrite is similar color with the gold, and sulfide, and sulfate. All these can contain a lot of sulfur ions, and is mostly contained in the organic matter. Organic matter also contain a lot of higher concentration for the sulfur, and the acid rain also can help to provide the sulfur concentration into the soil environment. The plant function is an component of amino acid for the methionine and cysteines, and is the constituent of coenzymes and vitamins, and responsible for the pungency and the flavor. So the smells for some plants also come from with the help for the sulfur. And the deficiency and the toxicity. The sulfur deficiencies and the classic symptoms description is yellowing of new leaves because sulfur is immobile nutrients elements show the first one shows first deficiency symptoms show on the new leaves, and with the lower or the older leaves also remaining the uniform green, and both nitrogen and sulfurs are tied together due to the several common physiological process. Therefore, early growth symptoms can be similar. So, when you see the see the similar symptom on the plants, it may be caused by the nitrogen or sulfur, and the symptom may be similar. Example including overall leaf and the plant yellowing. Um, and the interveinal stripping. These similar symptoms most often occurs when plants are small and there is serious deficiency. And for example, low soil supply and no fertilization. Also, plant response from the fertilizer application can be quite similar for the nitrogen and the sulfur. And there is good growth and green plants with uniform coloration. The sulfur does not move as readily in the plant as nitrogen. So symptoms should differentiate on the different plant plants. So if you cannot distinguish the deficiency symptom on the plant, you need to collect the plant sample and come back to the lab for further determination. And the most common fertilizer for the sulfur, which are the gypsum together with the calcium, and together with the magnesium sulfur, ammonium sulfur, or the elemental sulfur. The elemental sulfur come from the acid rain, and also the available iron in the soil. And the next one, the last macronutrient is magnesium. The soil relationship is present in soil as an exchangeable cation. Is similar to the calcium ion as a cation. And the plant function. Magnesium has an important role in the photosynthesis, because it forms the central atom of the chlorophyll. So without enough amount of magnesium, plants begin to degrade the chlorophyll in the old leaves. Because magnesium is high mobile. So the symptom will firstly show in the old leaves or all shoots first, and these cause the main symptom of magnesium deficiency, intervalent chlorosis. Here, very significant intervenal chlorosis, or yellowing between the leaf wings, which stay green, giving the leaves an marbled appearance due to the magnesium mobile nature. the plants will first break down chlorophyll in all other leaves and transport the magnesium to younger leaves which have greater photosynthesis needs. Therefore, the first sign of magnesium deficiency is the corrosion of all leaves, which progresses to the young leaves as the deficiency progresses. Magnesium also acts as an activator for many critical enzymes. Therefore, low amount of magnesium lead to decrease in the photosynthesis and enzymatic activity within the plant. Magnesium is also crucial in the stabilizing ribosome structure. And therefore, a lack of magnesium caused deeply can cause the depolymerization of ribosome, leading to the premature aging of the plants. And fertilizers are commonly being used for the sulfur, which are the dolomite and Epsom salt and magnesium nitrate and magnesium sulfate and the magnesium sulfate. And after talking the macronutrient, they still have other 8 type of the micronutrients element. They also have their own specific function deficiency system, and even though they are amount their concentration in the plant's biomass is not that high as the macro nutrients. They are also important for the different functions in the plants, and also these micronutrients sometimes no need to extra applied in the soil because they're usually supplied by irrigation water and the soil. The deficiency and toxicity occurs at the pH extremes. Here you can see that why we said the soil pH management is very important, because in the extreme pH will cause the unavailability for the essential nutrients iron, and and uh, and the best soil pH is at pH 5 to pH 7. Control it as the neutral soil pH that can keep most of the essential nutrients and available from in the soil. And the first one we'll talk about the iron. The iron is the component of the cytochrome. Cytochrome is needed for the photosynthesis and essential for the nitrogen fixation. Can serve as the nitrate reductase and respiration. The deficiency, the iron chelate is a common use for the agricultural purpose to treat the corrosis, a condition in which leaves produce the insufficient chlorophyll in the horticulture. The iron chelate is often referred to as a sequester. Iron is used as a the plant's tonic, often mixed with other nutrients and the plant food. And the deficiency symptom for the iron always shows in the venal corrosive on the new growth because the iron is the immobile nutrients that the deficiency system will shows on the new growth leaf first, and it will show in the intervenal corrosive, the intervenal corrosive, and the iron corrosive develop when soil pH is high. So as we said, the soil pH also will affect the availability of some specific nutrients iron, and the use iron chelate, the um, the we can select different iron fertilizer in the soil under different soil pH, because the soil pH will affect the iron's availability. For example, if the soil pH under the below 7, we suggest to use the Fe, the iron EDTA, this type of iron chelations. And if in the alkaline soil, the soil pH is above 7, we suggest to use the iron EDDHA. Different soil pH have a different selection for the iron fertilizer. And here you can see I will tell you why we need to select two different chelation later. And here you can see the iron deficiency system. It shows the intervenal corrosive in the newly growth with light green color, or some even shows the dead plant leaves. The plant new leaves showed on the newly growth leaf or shoot, and show the iron deficiency system. Why we need to select different chelation at the different pH Here you can see that if the iron have a chelation with the EDDA or the EDDHA, and in the high soil pH, the available from the iron have chelated, that they can easily to be absorbed, being carried to the root surface, and being absorbed by the root hair, and then the root hair can release the ligand part, that the EDDA part, and the available iron can be absorbed by the root. And if the iron available from them have non-chelated with the ligand part with the EDTA or EDDHA, will make these iron to form oxide form, make it unavailable, the iron unavailable for the plant, and the roots of the root hair cannot absorb the available iron in the soil solution. And the next one, the manganese. The manganese is required for the chlorophyll synthesis and oxygen evolution during the photosynthesis, and also it can help to activate some enzyme system. The deficiency system also, because you can see that manganese is immobile nutrients, elements, essential elements for the plants, and often look like those for of iron deficiency is similar, and it also appear as interveinal corrosives on the young leaves, and sometimes tan sunken spots that appear in the corroded area between the veins. Plant growth may also be reduced and stunted. And manganese deficiency can occur when the pH of the growing medium exceeds 6.5 because it's tied up and unavailable for uptake. And the deficiency can also occur from low fertilizer application rate, use of general purpose fertilizers, and excessive lecturing or applying too many iron chelate chelation will cause this one. And also we can use manganese sulfur or manganese EDTA, also another chelations for the high soil pH soil for these for these nutrient element supplement. And boron, and boron also involves in the carbohydrate sorry, and the carbohydrate metabolism is essential for the flowering, pollen germination, nitrogen metabolism, and the deficiency also shows on the new growth, it's distorted and malformed from on the flowering, and the fruit set depressed, the root tuber distort. And the toxicity will cause the caused by the boron. We have the twig side bad, and the fruits slipping, and leaf edge burns. And here shows the common use fertilizer for the boron. And the zinc involves in the protein synthesis, and IA8 and IA synthesis deficiency is common, easily to cause in the calcium abundant soil and a high pH. They will have the growth suspension reduced into knot length, and rosetting in the veinal corrosives on the young leaf because it's also immobile in the tissue. The first system will show in the new leaves. And the toxicity also occurs at a low pH. It will have caused the growth reductions, the leaf corrosives. Molybdenum is very important for the nitrate reductase activity. It serves as the catalyst for the nitrate reductase activities of vitamin synthesis, and also the root nodule. The root nodule bacteria will certainly have a nodule formation. They have to help for the nitrogen fixation. It also requires the molybdenum. The deficiencies will cause the pale greens, cupped young leaves, striped leaf in the broad leaf plants occurs at low pH, and the toxicity will have the corrosives with orange color. Pigmentation is orange color, is different color, and the fertilization we usually use the sodium molybdate. And the copper. Here you can see that shows on the is the essential component of several enzymes of chlorophyll synthesis, carbohydrate metabolism, and it have a rosette or the witch broom for the deficiencies, and also the toxicity for the copper. It shows the corrosive system, and the coring is difficult, is not normal for the deficiency for the chlorine and all is important for the photosynthesis oxygen revolution. The toxicity for it will have the leaf marginal corrosis and decrosis on all leaves and is not very common for the deficiencies and toxicity for the chlorine. And the last one, the last micronutrient is the nickel. The nickel is a component of some plant enzymes, the most notably urines. And the deficiency for it will show the darker green, the thinner, and remain much smaller. You can see that the leaf is much more smaller than the normal one. And the toxicity for it will form the necrotic legend on the leaf tip. The leaf tip will firstly show the substance substance. And the fertilizer is not add to most fertilizer for this nickel sulfate. Here shows the micro nutrient toxicity on the seed on the seeds. And here you can see the deficiency substance for the different micronutrients and I think here is the end of this lecture. I cannot finish all the contents in this lecture, and the next part the other beneficial elements I will reserve for the next lecture. OK， 好，咁我哋今日咧呢堂就上到呢度啦。咁我哋剩低嗰啲內容咧，下個禮拜先再繼續講啦。我呢堂都講唔晒咁多，咁就我等下就改翻嗰個 timetable 啦，咁樣就再 upload 翻上去個 Moodle，咁樣你哋就可以方便大家去睇翻個時間去做功課啦。咁樣你哋未揀組嘅同學，咁樣都記得翻去 Moodle 嗰度揀翻你哋個組咯。好，有冇其他問題啊？如果冇乜問題咧，咁我哋就落堂啦。咁就下個禮拜再見啦，拜拜。
拜拜。
拜拜。
拜
拜拜。
拜。
拜拜。
嗯。